أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين، والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا ونبينا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع ذنوبنا وطبيب نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد، اللهم صل وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين، واللعنة الدائم على أعدائهم أجمعين. أما بعد، فقد قال الله الحكيم في محكم كتابه الكريم: أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. تلك حدود الله، ومن يطع الله ورسوله يدخله جنات تجري من تحتها الأنهار خالدين فيها، وذلك الفوز العظيم. ومن يعص الله ورسوله ويتعد حدوده يدخله نارا خالدا فيها وله عذاب مهين. صدق الله العلي العظيم. صلوات اللهم صل على For the love of our beloved Prophet and his beloved progeny, please recite a second loud salawat. For the hastening in the return of our beloved 12th Imam, a third final loud salawat. Before inshallah I delve into tonight's topic, I know that the Qasim handed me one of these, but even if he wasn't going to hand it, I was going to ask for it. Usually this is something you do privately, but I'll be inshallah donating as well, a small amount. Hopefully that will encourage more of us inshallah to pitch in to inshallah support the educational efforts, the religious efforts that we do. At the end of the day, if we live in this part of the world, there are responsibilities that come with it. This is one of those responsibilities. So inshallah, we can all pitch into it, and inshallah, all of us can be part of those who contribute to a noble cause like this. Recite salawat, please. The topic that we'll be discussing tonight is a very basic question on the surface. Is Islam simple or is it complex? Is this a religion that you can simplify in a couple of lines? Or is this a religion that comes with many moving parts? On a night like this, we commemorate the sacrifice that Imam al-Hussein made, the ultimate sacrifice, the sacrifice that we sit here and we mourn 1400 years later, a sacrifice that was so painful, it was so full of pain and agony that we sit and we cry. Tomorrow, many of us will attend different majalis. We will go through the masa'ib that Imam al-Hussein went through, and tears will flow from our eyes. And Imam al-Hussein went through all of this sacrifice for none but this religion of Islam. And if we want to appreciate his sacrifice more than anything else, we have to have a deeper understanding of this religion. This religion that he gave anything and everything that he had for. Is this religion a simple religion, or is it a complex religion? If it's a simple religion, if it's a religion that I can sum up in a couple lines and move on with my life, then number one, it's very easy for me to give opinions about it. It's very easy for me to make judgments about this religion. Number two, I don't have to learn much about this religion. It's easy, it's simple. You learn a couple majalis and you're done. But if this religion is a complex religion, if this religion comes with many moving parts, then number one, you will hold back from giving opinions about this religion unless you're an expert. Number two, your whole life you will spend continuing to learn about this religion. And this discussion has many other theological implications as well. They will become clear as we move on. Many times you will find people who will try to simplify the religion. Yes, the only thing that matters in this religion is that you're a good person at your hearts. The details of the religion, they don't matter so much. Sometimes people will even tell you, these scholars, they want to overcomplicate the religion. God doesn't care if you have prayed this way or that way. God doesn't care if you fast this way or that way. God doesn't care what type of dress code you have. None of this stuff matters. The only thing that matters is, are you a good person at your heart or not? Tonight we want to take some time to see, did Imam Hussein and the Ahlul Bayt look at Islam with the same perspective? Or did they look at Islam as a complex religion, a religion that you have to constantly learn about, a religion where the detailed rulings matter? Which one was it? Because when you look at Islam and the way that it's spread across the Arabian Peninsula, you find two very interesting things. Number one, Islam spread very quickly. When you look at other religions and how they spread, you find that Islam was a phenomenon that spread extremely quickly amongst the Arabian Peninsula. At the same time, it was a religion, unlike some of the other religions, that it had room for different people of different ethnicities, different cultures, different backgrounds to also come. So it was simple enough for everyone to enter. It was also complex that if you lived in different parts of the world, you could practice this religion as someone, almost as if you are living in the Arabian Peninsula. There is a simplicity and a complexity that lies within this religion. And tonight, inshallah, we want to delve into this topic by posing the following questions. Number one, is Islam a simple or complex religion? If it's simple, what does that mean for me? If it's complex, what does that mean for me? And what is the difference between Islam being a complex religion and being a complicated religion? Because there's a difference there. Number two, do the details of religion matter? Or are these details that scholars have added to Islam over time? Which one is it? Number three, how much of our hadith literature that we have from the Ahlul Bayt has to do with the detailed day-to-day rulings that I live by in my day-to-day life? And how much of it has to do with the general concepts that we find in Islam? Number four, how did our beloved ninth Imam display the complexity of the religion of Islam in the debate that he had with Yahya ibn Aktham, the Qadi al-Qudat, the greatest judge who used to work for Ma'mun al-Abbasi? And number five, and finally, what objection did the Ahlul Bayt make to the Khulafa, whether it is the first three caliphs or the Khulafa of Bani Umayyah or the Khulafa of Bani al-Abbas, that has to do with the complexity of the religion and how these individuals did not have knowledge of the complexity of religion, and therefore they were disqualified being the rulers of the Muslim Ummah. Tonight, inshallah, we'll delve into these five questions with a loud salawat ala Muhammadin wa ali Muhammad. When we look at the religion of Islam, you find certain aspects of it might be a little bit more simple. Some aspects of it might be very complex. We said that the religion of Islam, it contains three different categories of teachings and tenets. You have the belief system, you have the moral teachings and the akhlaqiyat, then you have the day-to-day ahkam. The moral teachings, not too complicated. You cannot steal, you have to have good akhlaq, so on and so forth, and it continues. The belief system, however, is a bit different. When you look at the belief system of Islam, at least at the surface, there seems to be a simple way of understanding it. In Islam, there is no idea, for example, of one human being being human and God at the same time, being human and divine at the same time. In Islam, you don't have to grapple with that. In Islam, you don't have to struggle with that. No, there is one human, he is the Prophet. There is one God, he's God. There's no such a thing as, same person has both of these elements. In Islam, and many times you might contrast these beliefs that we have in Islam with other faiths, like the Christian faith, there is no idea of the Trinity. The Quran said, لَقَدْ كَفَرَ الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّ اللَّهَ huwa thalithu thalatha. Whoever said this Trinity thing, he is kafir. This is a form of disbelief in Islam. So the basic tenets of this religion in terms of the belief system seem to be straightforward. No, this idea of there is one and then they are three at the same time and they manifest in themselves in different ways and so on and so forth. This is, of course, a topic that's very difficult for the mind of the human being to grapple with. And Islam, you don't have to grapple with this. No, in Islam, there's one God. That's it. It's as simple as that. You even look at, for example, the difference we have in Islam, the belief system, and what you have, for example, in Hinduism and Buddhism at times, or more so in Hinduism than Buddhism. Buddhism is more of a lifestyle than it is a divine religion. You find that the idea of there being multiple gods or multiple entities that have independent power. This one is the god of this. This one is the god of this. This one is the god of this. They get into fights with one another. I don't know. This one is wrestling with the other one. Things of that nature. This is difficult for the human being to understand. This God who created all of this, they are fighting. They have disputes with one another. You come to Islam, it's very straightforward. It's very simple. At the surface, there's one God. This God is the creator of everything. And everything else is a creation of this creator. Seems pretty simple and straightforward. Yes, when you move on into the depths of the religion of Islam, you find that this simple concept of God's existence starts to become more and more complex. Starts to get more and more complex. This God of ours in Islam that we claim is unlimited. So what does that mean then? If he's unlimited, where does that put you and I? I exist, you exist. If he's unlimited, how does that relate to my existence then? How does he create us from nothing? Or does he even create us from nothing? These are, you find the complexities are starting to show themselves, yes? The Quran speaks about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in depth and in detail. And some of the verses of the Quran, we don't even understand. It says, Allahu nurus samawati wal ard. And you look at the Shia school of thought, the Sunni school of thought, this verse of the Quran is probably the most discussed verse in all of the tafasir. Allahu nurus samawati wal ard. Allah is the light of the heavens and the earth. What does this mean? What does it mean that God is the light of the heavens and the earth? مَثَلُ نُورِهِ كَمِشْكَاتٍ فِيهَا مِصْبَاحٌ. The analogy of his light is like a niche. A niche is when you have a ledger that's built into a wall. Yes? Back in the day, they used to put pictures there, maybe, for example, flowers there. This is a niche in the wall. So imagine a niche. There's a light or a lamp in the niche. And the lamp is catching on fire. It is turning on. It's sparking almost without someone turning it on. Wonderful. Does this analogy simplify things for us, or does it make more complex for us? In many ways, it makes it more complex. So there is a deeper layer and level to the belief system that we have in Islam. You move on to other verses of the Quran. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, when you do this, I love it. When you do this, I dislike it. Does God have emotions? Can God love and dislike the way we love and dislike? These are serious questions you have to answer. He says, Inna Allah yuhibbu tawwabin wa yuhibbu al-mutatahhirin. He loves those who are doing tawbah. What does it mean, love? Before this, you didn't love me? Then all of a sudden, you started loving me. So you change, your emotions change, the way I'm a human being and my emotions change. What's going on here? The Quran says, if you do wrong things, وَمَنْ يَحْلِلْ عَلَيْهِ غَضَبِي فَقَدْ هَوَى. I will become angry with you. And the one I become angry with, he will perish. So God becomes angry. Sometimes he's happy, sometimes he's angry. Seems as though I do things and I change his emotional states. You know, sometimes you do things, you change the emotional state of your parents. You do something, you make them happy. You do something else, you make them angry. Is that how it is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? So there's a complexity here. What's going on here? How do we explain these? Then you move on to other verses of the Quran. They will describe for us a belief system that is difficult. It says, هُوَ الْأَوَّلُ وَالْآخِرُ. He is the one who's the first and the last. وَالظَّاهِرُ وَالْبَاطِنُ. He is the one who is the apparent and the hidden one. What's going on? These are not easy verses to understand. There is a complexity here, even in terms of our belief system. Yes? Yes, on the basic level, you can understand it in a simple way. He's God, he created everything else. Everything else is his creation. But if you wanted to get into the depths of this religion, you will find that there is a complexity there. This is as it relates to our belief system. You move on from this because the belief system, even if you know a basic understanding of it, it will do for you. At the end of the day, you and I, we're not going to all be experts in the belief system. That's for scholars to discuss, philosophers to discuss, intellectuals to discuss, and so on and so forth. Then you come to the ahkam, the third category of teachings that we have in Islam. When it comes to this category, is our religion a simple religion or is it a complex religion? Is it a religion where you can learn the rulings in a day or two and move on with life? Or is it a religion where you have to constantly educate yourself? Many of us raise this question. Many of us have this question. Sometimes I've heard people will say this. They will say, listen, Islam is not supposed to be so complicated. I don't know, you do wudu, you can't go upwards. I don't know, when you're wearing hijab, it has to be this way. You know, when you are walking, the brothers, their clothing has to be this way. The fasting has to start from this time of the day to this time of the day. What if I swallow something after Fajr, 2 minutes after? What if I swallow something before Fajr? What if I swallow something, I thought it was Maghrib, turns out it wasn't Maghrib? All of these rulings. This person will tell you, say, listen, this is not Islam. These scholars, they're overcomplicating the religion. God doesn't care about this stuff. God just wants you to fast. You ate something 2 minutes after Fajr. No problem. It's not a big deal. You drank something, you thought it was Maghrib, you found out it wasn't Maghrib, for example. What's the big deal? These details don't matter. What matters is, at the end of the day, you're a good person. Generally, you pray, you're fast. I'll never forget, I had a relative. This is when I told my relatives that I was going to attend the Hawza. Turned out later to be a big mistake. But anyways, I shared with them, wonderful relatives, alhamdulillah, all of them good at hearts. Yes? But, you know, in terms of their understanding of things, they struggle sometimes. So I shared with one of my relatives. I said, you know, this is the plan. And she said, and she's a wonderful person. Yes, not an aunt for me, but like an aunt for me. Yes. She said, that's great, Mahdi. If you want to go study and all that kind of stuff, that's wonderful. Just don't become rigid like these scholars. Don't become so bogged down in terms of the details of you have to do this, you have to do that. I don't know. You know, when you pray, there's these conditions with your clothing, the place you're praying, the timing you're praying, your wudu has to be like, don't become like that. Just don't become rigid. Don't get bogged down in terms of these details. She said, these details don't matter. So, well, these details don't matter. So like when you pray, like you don't pay attention to these details? This stuff doesn't matter for you? She said, no. I mean, praying is for me speaking to God. I just sit right here on my couch. I speak to him. I don't need to get up, do wudu. I don't know, 5 o'clock in the morning, all of this. No. Wake up, have my coffee when I'm settled down, more mindful. Yes. I sit down and I just speak to God. I said, wow, that's a very relaxed way of practicing Islam. But this was her perspective. And there are many others who will have the same perspective. And many of us may not admit it, but this is the way we see Islam. Because when it comes to the details, it's, it doesn't matter. I'm a good person generally. Is this religion of Islam complex in terms of these rulings? Or is this something scholars have added? They've overcomplicated the religion and all of this. Which one is it? If you want to answer this question, you have to go to the sources of Islam. See, the sources, do they describe Islam in a complex way? Or do they describe Islam in a simple way? Be good, that's it. The rest of it doesn't matter. Which one does Quran and Hadith say? You go to the sources, Quran and Hadith at the end of the day. So let's begin with Quran and let's see if this religion of ours is some simple religion or no, there's complexities to it. You look at the verses of the Quran. The verses of the Quran, you come, for example, to the topic of inheritance. وَمَا أَدْرَاكَ مَا inheritance. If you only knew how complex this topic is. You would have assumed Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would have said, you know what? Doesn't matter. Abu Zar, you give a third of it to your relatives, a third of it to charity, a third of it, you decide what you want to do with it. Khalas, done. That's what Abu Zar would have expected. But then you look at the rulings and bear in mind, this is not hadith. You say hadith, maybe it's this, maybe it's that. We don't know. No, these are verses of the Quran. I remember when I was younger, memorizing some parts of the Quran, I used to skip over the first verses of Surah An-Nisa because they were so complex. It's just too complicated to memorize. Just skip over this, go to the next page. There's 1.5 pages, the beginning of Surah An-Nisa, that describe the rulings of inheritance. I used to skip that place, that page. This is too complicated. Islam says, no, it's not that simple. It depends. Did he have a brother? Did he have a sister? Did he have children? Mother, father, daughter, son, all of these complexities. One of them gets 1/3, the other one gets 1/4, the other one gets 1/6, the other one gets 1/8. If they have children, gets 1/8. If doesn't have children, gets 1/4. If they have children, gets 1/6. If they don't have children, gets 1/3, for example. All of these details. It's very complex. Who said the religion of Islam is simple? Oh, these details don't matter. And then the Quran beautifully says, and these are the verses I chose at the beginning of the lecture. The Quran says, these are the guidelines of God that I shared with you with regards to inheritance. If you obey him when it comes to these details, I'll put you in heaven. Is the verse saying if you just be a good person at heart, put you into heaven? It says no, if you go by these guidelines that I'm giving you, some of them are very complex. And then he says, وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ, and if you disobey God when it comes to these details, يُدْخِلْهُ نَارًا, there's going to be punishment. That's why he calls it haram. There's going to be punishment. It's very interesting because these verses of inheritance, these laws of inheritance, they were revealed when a man passed away. He had orphans and a wife, of course. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, you can't just sit there and decide what happens to the wealth of this person. No, he has children he has to, make sure we take care of. He has a wife we have to make sure we have to take care of. Because wives at that time, forgive me, were worth nothing. Forgive me, I say this. They were passed along like objects. That's how it was before the Prophet showed up. Children, nothing. They used to take all of their inheritance. Islam came, said, you know what? They have these rights. In fact, it's very detailed, depending on the situation. It is so complex, the rulings of inheritance, that you and I, because we don't have the complete knowledge of it, we sit there and we generalize a lot of times. Say, yes, you know what? In Islam, a man gets twice as much as a woman. Who said that? You said that, Abu Zar? He laughed when I asked. Who said that? Who said a woman gets half as much as a man? You and I, because we don't learn the complexities of our religion, we sit there, forgive me, I say of myself, we make ignorant statements about Islam. This is how Islam is, twice always for the man. No. Yes, sometimes the man gets twice as much as the woman. Sometimes the male and the female, they get the same exact amounts. Sometimes the female gets everything, the male doesn't get anything. It's possible. Yes, certain situations, the female gets half as much as the male. There are certain situations in the rules of inheritance that holds true. There are certain situations they get the same. In most cases, a mother and a father, they get the same. But this is the father, people say patriarchy, he's the male, he's like this. In Islam, it's all about patriarchy and the man and the male and all. He says he's the father. This is the mother. They get the same. What happened to all the male-oriented everything, the propaganda? No, he's ignorant about the complexities of the religion. Make statements like this. You learn the rulings, learn the complexities of it, and then you can make judgments about it. Then there are situations where the male doesn't get anything. Someone passes away. They have a brother, for example, and then they have a daughter or daughters, how much does this brother get? 0. None. This brother most likely is older, because if he's the brother of the father who passed away, he's usually older than the daughters, and he's a male. But he gets nothing. All of it goes to who? All of it goes to the daughter. But no, we don't want to learn these complexities. Yes, we just want to sit there with one line. Yes, in Islam, it's like this. This is out of our ignorance, out of my ignorance at times. Recite a salawat, please. Sure. If we can ask the brothers to please move up. He said there are others waiting, inshallah. Move to this side, inshallah, if we can do that. Another salawat, please. No. One more salawat, please. There are complexities within this religion. You and I have to continue to learn, have a deep understanding of this religion. Otherwise, we'll end up making ignorant statements like this. And in Islam, there's an emotional side, there's an intellectual side. If you emphasize only one or the other, you'll have major problems. Generally within our communities, generally, not always, generally the emotional side is emphasized more than the intellectual and the knowledge aspect. And this leads to a lot of problems within our communities, a lot of problems. You have to learn. There's a lot of complexities to this religion. You move on, I'll give you another example. The rulings of charity, you would have assumed our charity is simple. You know, Christians, they also have the idea of charity. They tithe a tenth of their, savings, a tenth of their income, they give. Okay, do they have to give to this person, that person in this particular way at this particular time? So no, it's tithing. You give a tenth of it. That's it. It's done. In Islam, you say, okay, I want to give charity. Well, it says, well, it depends what type of charity. So I just charity, I want to give charity. It says, okay, no problem. We have a general category. It's for any type of charity you want to give. You can give this to anyone you like, no conditions, whichever what you like. Yes? But if you want to give your khums, okay, there are details there. If you want to give your zakats, there's details there. Certain categories you can give to. Is it kafara that you're paying? Okay, your kafara has to be paid for food only. Right? These details. Yes, you want to just give sadaqah, mustahab sadaqah, yeah, you can give to whoever and whichever you like. But if you want to give your zakat, for example, it says, no, إِنَّمَا الصَّدَقَاتُ لِلْفُقَرَاءِ وَالْمَسَاكِينَ وَالْعَامِلِينَ عَلَيْهَا وَالْمُعَلَّفَةِ قُلُوبِهِمْ وَفِي الرِّقَابِ وَالْغَارِمِينَ وَفِي سَبِيلِ اللَّهِ وَابْنِ السَّبِيلِ. You have to give to one of these 7 groups. And with these particular conditions. You want to give your other financial dues, you have to give to this particular person. All of these details. This is how the religion of Islam is. There are complexities within this religion of Islam. This is all just Quran. Now you move on to Ahlul Bayt. Say, did the Ahlul Bayt see this religion as a simple religion, or did they see it as a complex religion? Here's where we'll start from. When you look into our books of Hadith, within the Shia school of thought, we only have 4 main books of Hadith. 4. There's Al-Kafi, most of us have heard of this. Al-Faqih, most of us probably haven't heard of it. There's Istibsar, and there is Tahdhib. The names aren't too important, I'm just mentioning them. 4 main books of Hadith. When you look into these 4 books of Hadith, how much of these ahadith about the detailed day-to-day rulings in Islam? One might argue 50, 60, 70% of these ahadith that we have are about the detailed rulings in Islam. In other words, the 5th Imam, The sixth Imam, Imam al-Baqir, Imam al-Sadiq, salawatullahi alayhima. Time and time again, they're answering questions about the detailed rulings in Islam. And here's the question you and I have to ask ourselves. If Imam al-Baqir and Imam al-Sadiq are taking time out of their busy schedules to answer all these detailed questions, then you and I better have enough time to take these rulings seriously. Because if Imam Baqir and Imam Sadiq are sitting there and companions are coming asking question after question after question about the detailed guidelines in Islam, then that means it was important for them. If it wasn't important for them, why did the sixth Imam sit in Hajj? People used to come asking questions. Why? If the details of this religion didn't matter, if the details of dress code didn't matter, the details of salat didn't matter, the details of fasting didn't matter, the details of Hajj, if you've been to Hajj, you know what I'm talking about. If these details didn't matter to them, why would they sit there and answer question after question after question? What, forgive me, the sixth Imam has nothing better to do with his life? No, these details matter. He's trying to say, listen, you want to spiritually fly? You want to get closer to the Imam? Here you go, these details. Otherwise, if they weren't important, why did they spend so much time on it? Look in our books of Hadith. 60-70% of it is fifth and sixth Imam sitting there answering detailed questions that people have about different issues. So Ahlul Bayt cared about this. And they showed this in the way they interacted with different people. Our Prophet has a very beautiful line. He turned to people, and some have narrated that this was in that final Hajj that he went through, which many say was the only complete Hajj that the Prophet, went through. The final Hajj, yes? The final Hajj on his way back, Ghadir happened, and so on and so forth. 10th year after Hijrah, roughly. He was going for Hajj, and he turned to people, he said, Sallu, pray. And then he said this, he said, Kama ra'aytumuni usalli, pray the way you see me praying. No, Ya Rasulullah, I want to sit on my couch and talk to God. This is the Prophet, he's saying pray, but pray the way I pray. These details matter. The religion is a complex religion. Don't just simplify it. There's no one who wants to be more easygoing when it comes to Islam than the Prophet himself. He is saying pray, but pray the way I pray. These details matter. Do we know the wisdom behind every single detail? No. We discussed this the other nights, yes? We don't know. Why is it if I go upwards, all of a sudden this wudu is completely batil? Why? I don't know. But you do find hadith from the sixth Imam saying if you do that, it's batil. His companion says, I asked him to do wudu. He was doing wudu. He poured water and he intentionally never went upwards. He would pour water, go from up to down, up to down, up to down. It would never go upwards. What's the wisdom behind it? I have no idea. Does it matter? Yes. Otherwise, he wouldn't have spent his time explaining these rulings to us. And no one demonstrated this more beautiful than our beloved ninth Imam, Imam al-Jawad, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. Imam al-Jawad has a famous debate mentioned in history between him and an individual by the name of Yahya ibn Aktham. To give you a little bit of context regarding the story, how this came about, one day Ma'mun al-Abbasi came to the conclusion that he was forcefully going to marry his daughter to the ninth Imam. This was part of his plan, part of his plots, because he wanted to have someone in the house constantly doing what? Watching the ninth Imam. He came to his people, to Bani al-Abbas. He said, I'm going to marry my daughter to this person. We know Imam al-Jawad was extremely young, 9 years of age, 10 years of age, 11 years of age, somewhere around that. But of course, maturity-wise, intellectually, he was up there. So we believe he was an Imam. Bani al-Abbas came to him. They said, Ma'mun, you can't marry your daughter to a child. What is this? This is a child. Doesn't have the maturity level. Ma'mun said, no, you don't know this guy. You don't know this family. They're different. They said, no, what is this? We don't approve of this marriage. Can't do this. Ma'mun said, fine, is there any way to solve this problem? They said, yes, we can solve it. We have to test him. If we test him, if he passes the test, no problem. You go ahead with it. He said, no problem. Ma'mun knew exactly who the ninth Imam was. He knew who was going to win this debate from the very beginning. He set up the debate. People come, scholars of the kingdom, because Islam was a kingdom by then. It's like multiple, 10, 15 countries of today's world were part of the Muslim empire at this point. The Abbasid Caliphate went from the east all the way to the west. Very large empire at this point. They came, they all gathered. The narration says they prepared a place for the ninth Imam on the right-hand side of Ma'mun. All of a sudden, the ninth Imam entered into the courtyard of Ma'mun. Everyone got up. They used to show respect to the ninth Imam, even the eighth Imam. Outwardly, all of the respect in the world, yes? He got up. And you have to remember, these guys are relatives, by the way. Yes, they're cousins technically. He got up and he used to refer to the ninth Imam with his kunya. When you refer to someone with the kunya, this is a term of endearment, a term of affection. So call him Abu Ja'far. Yes? He said, Abu Ja'far, this is your spot. You sit by my right hand. The right hand is a special place. Then they said, okay, well, who are we going to choose to go up against, Abu Ja'far? He said, well, we're going to have to bring our A game. So we're going to choose the Qadi al-Qudat. You know what Qadi al-Qudat means? You have judges, you have courts, and then you have the Supreme Court. Qadi al-Qudat is the guy who's in charge of the Supreme Court. Yahya ibn Aktham, the most knowledgeable of all, we're going to bring him. They brought him. Yahya ibn Aktham entered into the courtyard. He turned to Ma'mun. He said, Ya Amir al-Mu'minin, do you give me permission to ask Abu Ja'far a question? And Ma'mun said, don't ask me for permission, ask him for permission. He turned to Abu Ja'far, the ninth Imam. He said, do you give me permission? And the Imam said, Sal in shi'ta, if you want to, go ahead and ask. He asked a question. I swear this question is 5 words. And he was expecting a response that might be 5 words, 6 words, 7 words, a sentence. But the way the Imam responded to him showed him the complexity of the religion of Islam. He said, Ma ra'yuka, what is your opinion? Fi mu'min, as it relates to a person who is in ihram, he is prepared to do his hajj now. He's killed an animal. What is your opinion in this regard? What's the ruling? What's this person supposed to do? They put that question in front of you and I, because we lack the knowledge of Islamic rulings. What will we say? Either it's halal, haram, or it's halal. I mean, what else are we going to choose? It's a problem or it's not a problem. That's it. Or most of us like to answer questions. It depends. He said, what is your ruling as it relates to a person who is ihram, who has killed an animal? You know what the Imam responded with? He said, well, I can't give you one answer. He said, first of all, قَتَلَهُ فِي حِلٍّ أَوْ فِي حَرَمٍ. Did he kill him near Masjid al-Haram? Or was he further outside of the city? Because depending on which situation it was, the ruling is going to be different for him. Number 1. Number 2, عَالِمًا كَانَ الْمُحْرِمْ أَمْ جَاهِلًا. Did he know the ruling that he's not supposed to kill animals? Or did he not know? Depending on that, the ruling is going to be different. قَتَلَهُ عَمْدًا أَوْ خَطَأً. Did he kill him on purpose? Or no, it was by mistake, for example. It's number 3. Was it during day or was it during night? The person who killed this animal, was he a free man or is he a servant? Did this person kill this animal by himself or with the help of another person? Every single situation is different. The ruling is different. Did he have others to help him or was he by himself? Did he kill him with just one strike or did he go back after it again and again? Was this animal a bird or was it a different thing? 10 different scenarios the Imam mentioned for him. Depending on the scenario, the ruling is going to be different. And Yahya ibn Aktham knew he lost the debate before it even started. Because in his mind, he was looking for one simple answer. What he got taught was that you have no idea the complexity of this religion. So the religion is a complex religion. You can't sit there and say, these details don't matter. Oh, this is the ninth Imam showing you and I what? This religion is a complex religion. We have to learn about these complexities. And I will wrap up with this, brothers and sisters. The number one objection that Ahlul Bayt had when it came to all of the Khulafa, all of them, was this. You're sitting up there, you're saying you're the successor of the Prophet. You don't have knowledge of the complexities of Islam. If they were to ask you about these rulings, you wouldn't know what to answer. This was one of their main claims to Khilafah. You're sitting there, you're saying, I'm instead of the Prophet, I speak on behalf of the Prophet. But if I were to ask you about these complex situations, you can't even answer these. You don't know these rulings. You don't have this knowledge. This is why the second Khalifa, when he used to get stuck, he would come to who? He would come to Ali ibn Abi Talib, salawatullahi alayhi. Used to come, say, someone is pregnant. What is the least amount of pregnancy? They said, no, 8 months, 9 months. This person became pregnant. So child is born in 6 months. They wanted to take this person, they wanted to punish this person. And the Imam heard about this and he drew conclusions from verses of the Quran. He explained, no, 6 months is the least. He said, you guys don't have the right to speak on behalf of the Prophet when you don't have knowledge of these complexities of the religion. Therefore, you and I have to take these complexities seriously. This is why the first Imam, he used to sit on the mimbar when he became Khalifa. He said, Saluni qabla an tafqiduni. Ask me about all your questions. And then beautifully, in some of the ahadith, he continues. He says, I swear by the one who helps the plants grow and the one who cracks the seed open so that it can turn into a crop. I swear that if you ask me about any verse of the Quran, I will tell you where it was revealed, why it was revealed, what is the tafsir of this, was it abrogated, was it not abrogated, is it a general statement, is it a specific statement? So there are a lot of complexities when it comes to this religion, and we have to be careful not to be dismissive of these complexities. On a night like this, that is as near and dear to our hearts, like this, and you and I say, I want to bring myself closer to the Imam. I want to walk in the footsteps of the Imam. I want to appreciate the sacrifice of the Imam. This is what it all boils down to. All of these 10 nights we've gone through, here's what it all boils down to. Appreciate the details of Islam and act upon the details of Islam. If you don't act upon the detailed teachings in Islam, you cannot spiritually grow. It's impossible. If it was possible, the sixth Imam wouldn't have taken all this time explaining all these details to us. If I can't go by those details, I'm always going to be held down. Doesn't mean I'm a terrible person, I'm evil, I'm, this, that. No, it doesn't mean those things either. It means spiritually, I can never grow. In Islam, acting upon the details of the religion and spirituality, they go hand in hand. If you don't act upon the details of the religion, you cannot grow your spirituality. You have a lot of love for the Imam. Wonderful. That should push you to act upon the details of the religion. You have a lot of love for Ahlul Bayt. Wonderful. That should push you to act upon the detailed guidelines that Imam Sadiq has given us, that the fifth Imam has given us. Unless you do that, there is no spiritual growth. Doesn't matter how much I love Imam al-Hussein. That love has to have me act upon his guidelines. And this is why you find on the 10th of Muharram, you saw all of a sudden the Imam stopped the battle. Though the battle in reality didn't stop, but he stopped things. Why did he stop things? Imam al-Hussein was making the ultimate sacrifice for God on that day. It's ultimate. And yet, when it comes to prayer, did he sit there and say, well, we're already making the ultimate sacrifice. Who cares about these details? What did he do? His companion reminded him. He said, the time of prayer has come. Look at the attention to details. So the time of prayer has come. So he said, well, we have to stop. And the army, of course, on the other hand, didn't want to stop. And you find the Imam prayed. And of course, he prayed a different prayer. Yes, he prayed Salatul Khawf. It was different. It is shorter. But he didn't sit there and say, I'm making the ultimate sacrifice. What is this details? Now you have to pray 2 rakat here, 2 rakat there. But if you and I make a sacrifice, we sit there, we dismiss all of these details. So I'm already growing my spirituality. What does it matter? My dress code is like this or like that. I'm a good person at my heart. What does it matter? I pray or I don't pray 5 times a day. I'm a good person at my heart. What does it matter if I give the charity with the proper guidelines or I just give to whoever and whenever? No, this is the Imam teaching us that these details matter. At the end of the day, the spirituality of the human being will not grow unless and only if he acts on the detailed rulings and guidelines within Islam. As long as I am dismissing these details or I'm not acting upon them, my soul is going to be held down by them. If it was anything other than this, our Imams would not have taken so much time explaining these rulings to us. With that, inshallah, we'll bring tonight's talk to an end. رحم الله من قرأ سورة الفاتحة مع الصلوات على محمد وآل محمد.
محمد وآل محمد.
الله أكبر. أعظم الله أجورنا بمصابنا بالحسين عليه السلام. صلى الله عليك يا أبا عبد الله. صلى الله عليك يا مظلوم. صلى الله عليك يا أيها الشهيد في كربلاء. May Allah's peace and blessings be upon you, my beloved Imam al-Hussein. It was in your homes that Allah blessed us with guidance and revelation, and upon you send the angels day in, day out. That morning of Ashura, that morning of Ashura, Ali al-Akbar recited the adhan. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. This was the final adhan he would recite. The last time his father Hussein would hear the call to prayer from his beloved. Tonight, my dear brothers and sisters, is the night of Ali al-Akbar.
He was the most similar to Rasulullah in his appearance and his manners. He came to Imam Hussein and asked for permission to battle. Imam Hussein alayhi salam raised his hands to the sky and said, Ya Allah, be a witness upon these men that the youth who resembles your prophet the most in character and speech is proceeding towards them. For whenever we wish to see the face of our prophet, we would look to Ali. Ali al-Akbar knew that his father allowed him, so he came to bid his farewells to the tent. Imagine Hussein saying goodbye to the resemblance of Rasulullah. He began to hug him and smell his fragrance one last time. The women came out, his aunts clung on to him, his sisters hugged him. The Imam told Ali al-Akbar, my dear son, during my sleep I saw a rider come up to me from behind and say, these people are proceeding further while death is advancing towards them. Ali al-Akbar said, oh dear father, are we not of the righteous? The Imam replied, of course, by Allah, whom all servants will return to. Then Ali said, then we do not fear whether we meet death or death meets us. So Ali al-Akbar said, farewell, oh father. As-salamu ala Ali al-Akbar. As-salamu ala Ali al-Akbar. As-salamu ala Ali al-Akbar. Ali Akbar. How you take your father's heart by leaving us. With you, how our tears part. Ali Akbar, how you take your father's heart. Oh my Ali, go slower. Please go slower for your father. I will not get to see you after this meeting. How he would fight till he could. How a son of Hussein would. He was left so thirsty and left bleeding. Father, Father, please tell me that I'll see you soon. I have fallen, my life be all for you. Father, Father, please tell me that I'll see you soon. As-salamu ala Ali al-Akbar. As-salamu ala Ali al-Akbar. As-salamu ala Ali al-Akbar. Then Umar ibn Sa'ad yelled out, will no one be brave enough to face the man? Bakr bin Ghanam stood up and went closer to Ali al-Akbar while Imam Hussein was standing at the entrance of the tent. Abu Abdullah started to worry. Layla looked at the Imam and said, my Mawla, did anything happen to my son Ali? He replied, no, Layla, but pray for him, for the man who approached him is who we worry from. Pray for him, for my grandfather Rasulullah once said that a mother's prayer is always accepted. Layla went inside and prayed for her son. Ya Allah, you are the one who returned Yusuf to Yaqub. Return my son Ali. Return my son Ali. Ali al-Akbar returned to Imam Hussein after killing Bakr. He said to his father, Father, the thirst is killing me, and the heaviness of the steel is draining me. Is there a little bit of water that would strengthen me against our enemies? Imam Hussein's heart broke as he heard his son's words. He replied, O son, where will I bring you water from? Fight a little more, for it is not long until you will join Rasulullah, and he will give you water that you will never feel thirst after drinking. Ali al-Akbar returned to the field. He continued fighting them with his spear until Muharram bin Munqid al-Abdi came to him and hit him on the back of his head. He clung on to the horse and said, peace be upon you, my father. Ya Abu Abdullah, this is my grandfather, Rasulullah. He has watered me from his pond, a drink from which I will never again be thirsty. After Ali's horse went to the enemy's tents, Imam Hussein hurtled to his son. He placed his cheek on his son's and said, Bunayya Ali, my son Ali, you are now relieved from this world's hardships and calamities and have left me. Imam Hussein turned to his sons and said, lift your brother. They lifted him and held him back to the tent. The women, along with Layla, gathered around him and started yelling, while Hussein stood there, watching the mournful scene. May God help his mother's heart. She held him to her chest and cried as she smelled her son's fragrance for the last time. Zainab came, oh Zainab, her heart is in pieces. She fell to his body and said, my love, my nephew. It's as if the scene turned into mourning between Zainab and Hussein over Ali. Imagine Hussein seeing his own son. What would he say to Zainab? علي راح علي is gone. Oh Zainab, rise and hold me. Ali is gone. Ali is gone. My heart was broken when I saw him. Ali is gone. Ali is gone. Oh Zainab, rise and hold me. Ali is gone. Ali is gone. My heart was broken when I saw him. Ali is gone. Ali is gone. Oh Zainab, rise and hold me. कहती थी माँ खूब भरी मई याद से लिपट कर हाय हाय अली अकबर कहती थी माँ खूब भरी मई याद से लिपट कर हाय हाय अली अकबर. This is what his mother cried while hugging his body. Hai Hai Ali Akbar. Oh my Ali Akbar. Curses be upon those who slayed Layla's flower. Curses be upon those who slayed Layla's flower. Curses be upon those who slayed Layla's flower. Mirror of Payambar, Hai Hai Ali Akbar, Hai Hai Ali Akbar. कहती थी माँ खूब भरी मई याद से लिपट कर हाय हाय अली अकबर. सल्लल्लाहु अलैहि मोहम्मद व आलि मोहम्मद.